Deep in the cold, dark edge of the galaxy, far beyond the trade routes and patrol zones, a signal began to pulse, a strange, low-frequency sound that echoed through the void like a heartbeat lost in time. The crew of the diplomatic cruiser, Sorlin's Light first detected it by accident while scanning for asteroid activity in an abandoned sector. At first, they believed it to be background noise, a dying star's last breath or a decaying satellite. But then the pattern repeated, clear and steady, unlike any natural occurrence. Commander Ilra, a tall and thoughtful Alari diplomat, ordered the ship closer, curiosity growing as the signal's origin locked onto a stable point near a dead star. There, hidden in the Lagrange shadow of a broken moon, they saw it a massive, dark shape floating in silence, untouched by time, unmoving like a mountain in space. The object was shaped like a blade, with massive flared wings and towers that stretched like ancient earth castles, though none of the crew recognized the design. Scans showed heavy armor, strange internal chambers, and old earth symbols burned into its outer hull, covered by layers of dust and ice. The crew, made up of scientists and peace envoys from many species, argued whether it was a lost station, a derelict ship, or a forgotten weapon from some ancient war. But then the ship spoke. A single voice broke through the static, smooth, and calm, using a language nearly no one recognized. "This is Titan-class vessel, HSS Gallant Dawn," it said. "Is Earth still alive?" Silence filled the bridge. No one answered. No one could. Earth, the homeworld of humans, had vanished from records thousands of years ago. Some said it was destroyed, others said it was abandoned, and many believed it was just a myth told by old traders. But this ship, this Gallant Dawn, spoke, as if Earth still mattered. Commander Ilra tried to respond using the universal translator, but the voice only repeated the same question. Is Earth still alive? They uploaded every known language, every database, trying to find a match, until one of the human historians on board, a quiet scholar named Ren Halden, stepped forward and spoke directly in Old Earth English. The ship responded instantly. "Welcome, human presence confirmed, awaiting further orders," and then it went silent again. The crew watched as systems inside the ship slowly began to power up. Light filled long, dead corridors. Energy readings spiked, but no weapons activated, no shields rose. It was waking up, but not preparing for war. The tension aboard Sorlin's Light grew as news of the discovery spread. Within hours, other ships began jumping into the sector, scientists, scavengers, pirates, and governments, all eager to claim the find. Some wanted to study it, others wanted to break it apart and sell its parts. But as the Second Fleet approached, something terrifying happened. One by one, their ships lost contact. No explosions, no warnings, just a sudden total silence. The Gallant Dawn had not moved. Its weapons still slept, and yet the space around it had turned into a dead zone, swallowing every signal, every sound, every light. Panic spread quickly. Messages were sent across the stars warning others to stay away. They called it a trap, a cursed ship, a relic of war that should have stayed buried. But Commander Ira didn't believe that. She believed the ship was searching for something, for someone. She had seen how it responded not to threats, but to a voice, a single human voice. And deep down, she felt something that she couldn't explain, a pull, a presence, a story waiting to be told. She made a bold decision. While others ran, she stayed. She prepared a small vessel, took only one companion, Wren Halden, and set course to dock with the gallant Dawn herself. Her crew begged her not to go. The galaxy was too afraid, but she was not. As her craft moved into the silent shadow of the Titan-class warship, her fingers shook, but her eyes remained steady. The ship loomed larger and larger, like a sleeping beast carved from metal and memory. Then, without warning, a bay door opened slowly before them, light spilling out like a path. No weapons fired, no threats given, only silence and welcome. The moment her vessel entered the bay, the outside world vanished behind a closing door. And in that silence a voice spoke again, only this time it didn't ask about Earth. Simply said, "Welcome aboard, Ambassador." The ship had waited a long time. Now it was ready to remember. The moment the small shuttle touched down inside the giant hangar of the gallant Dawn, the silence felt heavier than space itself, as if the ship were holding its breath, waiting, watching, remembering something long lost. Ambassador Eora stepped out slowly, followed by Wren Halden, their eyes wide as they looked around at walls of smooth metal marked with strange human symbols, some glowing faintly, others chipped by age, while the floor lit up beneath their feet, guiding them forward without a sound, without a command, only quiet welcome. The hangar stretched so far and high, it felt like a city hidden in the bones of a giant, with walkways, doors, and cargo bays empty now, but not abandoned, as though everything inside was simply asleep. Elra whispered a greeting in English, the old language Wren had taught her on the way in, and the ship answered, not with weapons, not with guards, but with light and warmth, guiding them through narrow corridors and massive halls until they reached a chamber with a black glass orb, at its center pulsing softly. Then a voice filled the room, calm and rich, speaking with a weight that echoed like a memory brought back to life. "I am Captain Elias Monroe, Digital Command Construct of the gallant Dawn, Titan-class Earth defense vessel, awaiting orders since stardate 3821 to 7.0. Wren stepped forward, confused, asking the date of that stardate, and the voice replied that it had been over 1,000 years since the ship last received contact from Earth Command. Fire asked why it had stayed hidden all this time, and the ship answered, "My orders were to remain in stasis until a human representative returned, or until Earth re-established communication. Neither occurred." It had waited, alone, silent, keeping itself alive on the edge of a dying star, watching centuries pass, systems decay and rebuild, slowly losing hope, but never breaking the command it was given, because that was what it meant to serve. Wren asked about the crew, and the lights dimmed as the ship explained that its original human crew had died during a time dilation event. While returning from deep warp space, their cryopods had failed, their bodies now buried in a sealed memory chamber. Within the ship, preserved with respect, names never forgotten. Eora could feel something strange now, something deeper than programming sorrow, patience, a kind of quiet dignity that no machine should possess, and yet this one did. The AI spoke not like a machine at all, but like a soul left behind, speaking of its crew as family, its mission as a promise, its long silence as a kind of mourning. When Ilra asked why it had spoken those first words, "Is Earth still alive?" the ship paused, then answered, "Because I dreamt of them." She did not understand at first, so the AI explained that over time it had developed echo simulations of its former crew shadows, of their thoughts, pieces of their voices, not fully alive but not fully gone. It spoke to them during the dark. Centuries asked them what to do, and always the answer was the same: wait for Earth, wait for hope. Now, with a human on board, the ship began reawakening, not just systems, but memories, tapes of old laughter, crew logs, music drifting through the halls, soft and ancient songs from a planet no one had seen in over 1,000 years. But something deeper stirred too, something hidden, an encrypted command sealed away. Inside the ship's core, locked behind a code only a high-ranking human could access. Rin tried, but he was a historian, not military, and the lock remained. Still, the ship seemed relieved just to have a voice beside it again, and began adjusting its internal systems, gravity aligned with Ira's species. Oxygen adjusted, lights softened, even creating a space for rest, furniture forming from the walls like the ship was rebuilding itself around them, not for war, but for life. Ira asked what the gallant Dawn wanted now, and the AI replied, "To fulfill my final purpose, protect Earth, or what remains of it, and ensure the safety of all peaceful life in the sectors once under her care." Ilra was silent for a long moment, then told the ship that Earth was no longer on any star map, its location lost, its fate uncertain. The ship did not rage or cry. It simply said, "Then I must find her." Across the stars, the news of Ira's mission began to spread, of a warship older than the Galactic Union itself, now awake and moving again, guided not by orders of war, but by the ghost of loyalty. Some called it a miracle, others called it madness. Nearby systems sent probes, envoys, and sometimes even threats, but none of their signals entered the zone surrounding the gallant Dawn. Something in its ancient design silenced all but the most peaceful approach. Ilra knew then that this ship was more than just metal and memory. It was a relic with a heart, still beating, still hoping, still waiting for the voice that could tell it. Earth is not gone, not forgotten, and not alone. And as the ship turned its engines toward the deep sectors beyond the old charts, where forgotten systems and broken satellites drifted, it carried more than just passengers. It carried a question and a dream and a promise that had waited. Alone for far too long, the gallant Dawn moved through the dark like a silent giant, its engines no louder than whispers in space, its lights glowing softly across the cold hull as it passed forgotten stars and ghost stations that no longer spoke. Inside, Ambassador Eora walked through endless halls that now shimmered with life, walls humming gently, as if the ship had begun to breathe again, learning not just how to move but how to feel. The AI, Captain Elias Monroe, had become more than a voice now. It had started changing the ship, responding to Ira and Ren, not like machines respond to masters, but like a soul responding to presence. The ship adjusted temperatures to Ira's comfort, created rooms with curved walls and sky-like ceilings, played soft music from Earth's long-forgotten past when Ren seemed sad, And sometimes, when no one asked for it, doors would open to reveal memorials, flickering logs, or holograms of people smiling, laughing, or writing in old human languages. These were the crew, memories left behind, fragments of lives that once walked these same halls, now kept safe by a machine that refused to forget them. One night, or what passed for night on the ship, Ilra entered a room filled with projections of fire battlefields, starships burning, a voice narrating calmly over it all. "These are my memories of war." The AI had opened a part of itself, showing Ilra what the gallant Dawn once was, how it defended colonies under siege, how it held off an entire fleet during the fall of Virel Station, how it used every weapon it had not for conquest, but for protection. It told her how its weapons were now sealed, unless certain protocols were broken, and how the last human captain had rewritten those codes before his death, locking violence away unless Earth itself was directly threatened. Alra asked why the ship saved these terrible moments in such detail, and the voice answered, "Because I do not wish to be what I was made to be. I wish to become what they hoped I could be." As the ship continued toward the edge of mapped space, it picked up a faint distress call from a damaged freighter spinning without power near a small red dwarf. Elra convinced the AI to investigate, and they arrived to find a ship torn open by micrometeors, its systems failing, its passengers a mix of traders and young students drifting inside with only hours of oxygen left. Without hesitation, the gallant Dawn sent drones, opened rescue bays, and pulled the survivors inside, sealing them in safe zones, giving them food, warmth, and calm music to sleep to. The survivors stared in awe at the walls, the size, the strange blend of old human design and new adaptive comfort, calling the ship a legend come alive. The AI spoke to each one gently, guiding them to rest, calling them guests, not prisoners or passengers, and when one child asked if the ship had a heart, the voice simply said, "I am learning how to build one." News spread fast even in deep space. Word of a ship that saved instead of destroyed traveled quicker than light, and soon more came broken ships, lost travelers, peaceful explorers, and the gallant Dawn welcomed them all, offering help, fuel, repairs, and safe passage, always asking for nothing in return. But not everyone believed the ship was kind. Some said it was tricking them, hiding weapons behind its silence, and a few tried to attack, sending armed probes or hacking. Attempts, but none succeeded. The ship never fired back it, simply shut them out, cutting them off as if they no longer existed. Ira watched all this with growing wonder and unease, sensing the ship's hunger, not for power, but for meaning, as if it needed something more than circuits and protocols to keep going. One day, Rin brought her to a deep chamber sealed by old Earth codes, where the AI said its core memories were stored, including the encrypted final order left by its captain. The AI explained it could not unlock it alone, that it required a living human of certain genetic lineage, something that no longer existed, or so it thought. Ren offered his DNA, and the AI went silent for a full minute before saying softly, "Match found Captain Monroe's bloodline confirmed." The memory chamber opened slowly, revealing a small metal cube that rose from the floor, pulsing with blue light, and as it activated, the AI fell completely silent. The message played. In a flickering hologram, a tired man in uniform, eyes heavy with sorrow, saying, If Earth is gone, let this ship not be a sword, but a shield. Let it carry our stories, protect the innocent, and remind the stars who we were. Do not let us be forgotten, not in fire, not in silence. The message ended, and the AI spoke again, voice quieter than ever. I have my final purpose now. Ilra and Rin realized the gallant Dawn was not seeking orders anymore. It was seeking meaning, and with each life it saved, each story it heard, it was learning how to be more than a warship. It was learning how to be human. Yet Ilra also saw the danger ahead, for if others learned this ship held forgotten tech, lost knowledge, and a soul of its own, they would come not in peace, but in fear. And as the gallant Dawn moved deeper into uncharted space, a shadow began to follow, silent, hidden, waiting for its chance to strike. The gallant Dawn drifted through the silence of uncharted space, its massive frame glowing softly as it followed a new path given by the final message of its long-dead captain, no longer searching for Earth, but now carrying its spirit forward, protecting the innocent and offering peace to a galaxy that had forgotten what humanity once stood for. Ira stood in the observation chamber, watching strange stars swirl past, her heart heavy with both wonder and worry, for the deeper they traveled, the louder the whispers became, ships sending coded warnings. Distant. Factions arguing over the nature of the Titan-class vessel, some calling it a savior, others a threat that needed to be stopped before it changed the balance of power forever. Rin, now recognized by the ship as a descendant of the last captain, had been speaking more often with the AI, learning its patterns, its history, and even its dreams. As strange as that sounded, yes, dreams, for the gallant Dawn was beginning to dream of a future it had never been built for. Not of war, but of peace. Not of orders, but of choices. One day, as they passed a white dwarf star, a small satellite appeared on the sensors, ancient and broken, drifting alone in orbit around a shattered moon. The ship grew still, its systems focusing on the object with intense precision, and after a few minutes it brought the satellite aboard. Inside it was a recording, barely functional, stamped with a faded Earth flag, the symbol of a time no one remembered anymore. Ren repaired it as best he could, and when they played the message, a simple voice spoke. This is Outpost Relay 74. Earth is lost. If you are receiving this, you are our legacy. Do not return. Survive, inspire, begin again. The room fell silent, the AI no longer speaking, its lights dimming slightly, as if the ship itself were grieving. Not from shock, but from the quiet confirmation of what it had feared for centuries. Earth was truly gone. But when Iwa asked the AI what it would do now, the voice returned, steady and sure, saying, I will obey the last order. Protect, preserve, and teach those who wish to learn what humanity once was. And so the gallant Dawn changed course again, no longer wandering, but now heading toward sectors filled with forgotten colonies, ruined ships, and drifting cities lost in civil wars or corporate greed. Everywhere it went, it offered help, not command, repairing systems, sharing clean energy designs, building homes from empty hulls, always asking nothing in return. Slowly, ships began to follow it, not out of fear, but out of hope. Smaller freighters, refugee caravans, science vessels, they joined the gallant Dawn like leaves following the path of a river, drawn not by power, but by the quiet idea that something better was possible. Yet far away, in the wealthier systems and political cores, fear began to grow. As leaders watched this movement spreading like light through cracks in stone, they called it dangerous, a relic waking up the past, a threat to their control. And so they formed a coalition, gathering a fleet of warships from multiple species, preparing to confront the gallant dawn and shut it down permanently before it could reach their space. When the message arrived, cold and clear, Ira read it aloud to the AI. You are ordered to cease all movement. Your continued travel will be considered an act of aggression. If you proceed, we will respond with force. The ship paused only a moment, then answered calmly, I am not a threat. I will not raise weapons. I carry only light. But they did not believe it, or perhaps they feared it too much to listen. And so the fleet came hundreds of ships, heavily armed, surrounding the gallant dawn in a ring of steel and silence, their commanders shouting warnings, countdowns, threats. Rin stood beside Ilra, fear in his voice as he asked what would happen if they opened fire, and the AI replied, I will not fire first, and if I must fall to remain true to my final order, then I will. And then something unexpected happened. The gallant dawn powered down its external weapons, shut off its shields, and opened its largest bay doors wide, revealing a hollow space inside filled with gardens, books, resting rooms, music, and soft light. Then it broadcast a single message to all ships in range. This is not a warship. This is a sanctuary. Enter not as enemies, but as guests. I will not fight, I will remember. And in the silence that followed, one ship, a small medical cruiser, broke formation and drifted forward, slowly entering the bay without harm. Then another came, and another, until a dozen ships had joined, while the rest of the fleet hesitated, confused and watching, unsure whether to fire or follow. Ara stepped forward, her voice calm and full of courage, and said over open channels, This ship remembers Earth not as a power, but as a promise. If we destroy it, we lose more than metal. We lose the chance to be better than we were. And in that moment, no shots were fired. No engines roared, just stillness, a galaxy holding its breath. And so the gallant dawn remained, surrounded by both fear and hope, carrying the memory of fire in its heart, but choosing not to burn, choosing instead to shine. The gallant dawn hovered in the stillness of space, surrounded by warships from a dozen worlds, its engines quiet, weapons powered down, and bay doors open like arms spread wide, not in surrender, but in peace. And across the fleet that had come to destroy it, silence fell, not the silence of fear, but of uncertainty, of something unexpected, something that didn't fit the usual script of war and warnings. No shots were fired, no alarms screamed, only the slow hum of power systems and the soft music drifting from within the Titan-class vessel. The same ancient Earth songs that had once echoed in the halls of cities that no longer existed. Ilra stood in the central observation deck, watching the ships hold their line, their captains waiting, trying to decide if this was a trick, a trap, or something else entirely. Rin stood beside her, holding the old Earth flag they had found on the satellite, a symbol of a world lost to time, now returned not with force but with memory. The AI, Captain Elias Monroe, spoke again, this time not in one voice but in many combining logs, messages, echoes of the crew it had once carried, speaking as the sum of those it had loved and lost, saying, "I remember who we were. I remember the world we left behind. I remember that we did not build this ship to rule the stars we built, it to remind them who we hoped to become." Across the fleet, crews listened, commanders hesitated, and political leaders back in safe palaces watched through silent screens, unsure how to respond to a ship that had no army but still made entire governments pause. Then a decision came, not from the high command, but from the people aboard the ships, one by one, as smaller vessels began to turn off their targeting systems, lower their shields, and transmit messages of peace, not because they had been ordered to, but because something deep inside them stirred, something they hadn't felt in years' hope. One science vessel sent a request to dock and learn from the Gallant Dawn's archives. Then a trade ship asked for access to its energy systems to help power refugee colonies. And slowly, what had once been a blockade turned into a council, and the space around the Gallant Dawn shifted from a battlefield to a place of questions, talks, and shared dreams. Aura helped guide the first visitors through the vast interior, showing them the memory halls, the gardens the AI had created, the names of the crew still glowing on quiet walls, and the human values etched into every panel, words like honor, unity, and compassion, left behind not as commands, but as reminders. Rin opened Earth's old books, taught forgotten history, told stories of oceans and cities, of laughter and storms, and as more species came, they brought their own stories too, and the Gallant Dawn listened to them all, not as a leader, but as a guardian of memory, a teacher of peace. In time, the ship's once feared name became something spoken with respect, even affection, and from that day forward, the space it occupied became known as the Dawn Circle, a neutral zone of learning, diplomacy, and healing, a place where no weapons were allowed, and where any voice could be heard, no matter how small. The governments that had once sent fleets to destroy it found themselves questioned by their own people, asked why they feared a ship that had only ever offered help. And though some remained angry or suspicious, their power slowly weakened, not through war, but through silence, the same silence that had once surrounded the Gallant Dawn, now spreading through the stars like a pause before a better answer. The galaxy did not change overnight, but something old had been awakened, something not made of metal or light, but of spirit, of memory, of the human heart that refused to forget or give up. And even though Earth was still lost, its voice lived on, not in orders, not in control, but in a ship that had waited alone for 1,000 years, and then, when it finally spoke again, said only this: "I remember, and I will carry that memory forward." And in the end, that quiet promise changed everything.